I never thought I'd be the guy writing some kind of story like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 8 years now. We've always had our ups and downs, sure, but I thought we were solid. We had the usual stuff, occasional fights, busy schedules, little disagreements, but nothing major enough to shake me up. I mean, I trusted her. Hell, I still do, even after everything I've found out. It all started about 2 months ago. Lisa changed a little, more distant, more on edge. I'd catch her sneaking around her phone more often, hiding messages, and sometimes she'd get defensive when I asked about her day. At first, I thought maybe she was just stressed or overworked, but then I noticed other things. She was dressing differently, more revealing, more flirtatious even. She'd come home late from work, but then say she'd been running errands or meeting friends. The little things that didn't add up, you know. I brushed it off, convinced myself I was imagining things. But deep down, I knew something was off. The real wake-up call came last weekend. It was our anniversary, and I had planned a weekend getaway for us, just a little trip to celebrate, get some time away from the chaos of daily life. We checked into a nice hotel, and for a while everything seemed normal. But then late Friday night, I decided to get some water from the lobby. I wasn't feeling great, and I figured I'd grab a quick drink before bed. That's when I saw her, Lisa, with this guy I'd never seen before, sneaking into a room, my room at the hotel. I froze. My stomach dropped. I watched her trying to hide from the hallway, but I saw her, clear as day. She was so focused, so desperate to hide something. When I saw her go in that room, I knew she was cheating on me. I didn't even knock. I just pushed the door open. And there they were, sitting on the bed, half naked, her hand on his thigh, both of them looking surprised to see me. She looked like she'd been caught red-handed. I could see the guilt all over her face, but she instantly started lying, fucking typical. "Mike, I can explain," she said, trying to sound innocent. "Yeah, right." She claimed it was just sex. Just a moment of weakness. She said she loved me but was stressed and needed to feel alive again. That she didn't plan for it to go this far. I was furious. Not just because she cheated, but because she was acting like I was some idiot who wouldn't notice. The thing that hurt the most. While she was lying there trying to spin her bullshit, I looked at her face and saw something I'd never seen before. Guilt, yes, but also a flicker of something else. Fear, maybe. Like she knew she'd screwed up royally. And the worst part, she was pregnant, that's right. She told me she was pregnant that same night when she finally confessed, after I confronted her about the affair and her sneaky trips. I couldn't breathe. My world just shattered into a million pieces. How could she do this? How could she lie about everything, including a kid? I was so stunned I couldn't say a word at first. Just stared at her, trying to process what I'd just seen and heard. Meanwhile, she kept saying she was sorry, that it meant nothing, that she loved me but just lost control. I wanted to punch her, scream at her, ask her how she could betray me like this, but I didn't. I just grabbed my coat and left. I couldn't even look at her. I wanted to run, hide, scream, anything but stay there with her lying face. I got in my car and drove off, not knowing what to do next, just knowing everything was fucked. That night I stayed awake for hours, just sitting in my car in the hotel parking lot, staring at the rain streaking down the windshield. My mind kept racing. How could she have done this? How could she think she could hide it from me? And that kid, her saying she's pregnant with his baby. I kept thinking about that. I felt like my insides were being ripped out. I was angry, betrayed, completely shattered, but also numb. All I could do was replay that moment over and over again. The look on her face, her trembling voice, that damn pregnancy test she showed me later, confirming what I'd feared. I finally went back to our room around 3 a.m. just to grab a few things. I didn't want to stay in that hotel, not anymore. I threw my clothes into a bag, avoiding her eyes when she came out of the bathroom, trying to apologize again, trying to act like nothing had changed. But it was too late for apologies. I told her I needed space, that I didn't know what I was feeling, and I didn't want to see her right now. I just wanted to leave. Driving back home that morning was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Silence filled the car, with only the hum of the engine and my thoughts. I kept thinking about all the moments I missed, her little lies, her secret trips, the times she dismissed my concerns. Everything suddenly felt like a lie, and then I kept circling back to the pregnancy part. That was the real punch in the gut. How could she keep that from me? How could she go behind my back and do this with my best friend? That's the part that eats at me the most. She lied for months, maybe longer, about everything. When I got home, everything was different. The house looked the same, but it felt haunted. I remember walking into the living room and just collapsing onto the couch, staring at the ceiling. Trying to breathe, my mind was a mess. I felt a mix of heartbreak, rage, and confusion. I still loved her, I want to say I did, but I also hated her. I hated the fact that she could betray me like this, that she could lie so convincingly. And the worst part, I had to look at her bitchy smirk, her sneaky eyes, like she was the victim here. Yeah, right. She was the one who cheated, who lied, who got pregnant by someone else. How dare she act like I was the bad guy? Over the next few days, I kept trying to piece everything together. I'd catch myself staring at her phone, wondering what other lies she'd been spinning. She kept saying she was sorry, that it was a mistake, that she loved me but needed space. Yeah, I believed her about nothing anymore. I started making plans, thinking about how to get her out of my house, what to do about the baby, how to confront my so-called best friend Jake. That asshole. I never thought I'd see him as the enemy, but after all this I do. The betrayal runs so deep. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't hurt, because I am devastated even. It feels like my heart's been stomped on. But beneath all that, there's a cold fire burning. I'm starting to think about revenge, not some petty, childish thing, but something calculated. They think they can lie and cheat and get away with it. Well, I'm not that guy. I'm not going to let this slide, not without payback. I want her to feel what I felt when I saw her with him. I want her to suffer just a little, to understand what it's like to be betrayed, to be the fool in her sick little game. So I've been quietly planning. It's not going to be immediate. I want to do it right, make her see how much she's screwed up her life. I've started digging into his background, finding out what he's really like, what kind of guy he is behind the scenes. I've even thought about setting up some kind of trap, maybe catch them again, maybe expose her in front of everyone. Not sure yet. But I know one thing. She's not getting away clean from this without consequences. She's going to regret ever messing with my life. And her pregnancy. That's just fuel for my fire. If she thinks I'll let her keep that kid without any repercussions, she's dead wrong. That's where I stand now. Hurt, angry, betrayed, and secretly plotting my next move. I still love her, or at least I did. But now I'm not sure who she really is anymore. All I know is I won't be a pushover. Not this time. In the days that followed, I kept my cool on the surface, but inside I was boiling. Every look she gave me, every word she said, I was analyzing, searching for cracks in her story. She kept insisting she was sorry, that she never meant for it to go this far, and that she'd make things right. Yeah, right. That's what she kept saying, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I could see her true colors shining through, bitchy, manipulative, trying to spin her way out of a sinking ship. She's always been good at lying, but now her lies just felt so transparent. Meanwhile, I was doing my own digging. I needed to know how deep this thing went. I started following her, watching her moves when she thought I wasn't paying attention. Turns out, she'd been sneaking out at night, meeting Jake at various spots, always making sure no one knew. I found her phone records, hours of texts, calls, even secret messages on social media. She was relentless. They'd been planning this for a while, I'm sure of it. And the thing that really pissed me off, she's been calling herself pregnant to get sympathy from friends and family, acting like the victim. Meanwhile, she's busy lying about her relationship with Jake, trying to hide the fact that she's been sleeping with him while pretending to be this devoted wife. One particular night, I decided enough was enough. I needed answers face to face. So I confronted her in the living room. That's when she turned her bitchy attitude on me, acting like she was the victim, flipping every excuse she could find. Mike, you don't understand what I've been going through. I was stressed, overwhelmed, and I made a mistake. It doesn't mean I don't love you, she said, with her typical dismissive tone. I was so furious I could barely keep my voice steady. I told her I wasn't interested in her excuses, that she'd been lying for months, and that I knew about the pregnancy. That shut her up for a moment, but then she started crying, fake tears I knew, and trying to gaslight me. You're overreacting, it's just sex. It meant nothing, she said. I looked at her and saw how manipulative she was. She's always been the queen of lies, and now she's using tears to get her way. That night I slept with my phone in my hand, waiting for her to slip up again. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I had to be smart, strategic. I decided to record her if she ever slipped into her usual lies again. I wanted undeniable proof of her betrayal, not just my assumptions. I also started thinking about what I'd say to her if I ever caught her red-handed again, or if I decided to confront her in a more calculated way. I realized I was preparing myself mentally, getting ready for what could be a war, because she'd already turned my world upside down. The hardest part, trying to hold my feelings in check when I saw her bitchy smirk or her dismissive attitude. I was on the verge of losing it every time she played the victim. I felt a mix of anger, disappointment, and heartbreak, like I'd been punched in the gut so many times I couldn't breathe. Every day, I was convincing myself that I deserved better, that I shouldn't let her manipulate me anymore. But at the same time, I wondered if there was any way to salvage what was left of us. Honestly, I didn't know if I wanted to, but I knew I had to do something soon before she completely spun her web of lies and left me with nothing. Meanwhile, Jake was still lurking in the shadows, acting like he was innocent, like he wasn't the one sleeping with my wife. I found out he's got a reputation, partying, cheating, a real player. That just added fuel to my fire. I couldn't believe I'd trusted him too. My so-called best friend. The guy I confided in, played golf with, went to barbecues with. All of it was a lie. Now every time I see his face, I see betrayal. I've even thought about confronting him directly, maybe even exposing him to everyone. I want him to feel what I'm feeling, how it's like to be made a fool of, to be betrayed by the people you trust the most. What's crazy is how fast everything spiraled. What started as a suspicion turned into absolute proof. I was still trying to process it all, my wife, pregnant by my best friend, lying her ass off every step of the way. And I know I can't keep living like this, caught in a whirlwind of lies. I need to decide what's next, whether I should fight for her or cut her out entirely. But one thing for sure, I'm not going down without a fight. I want her to feel everything she's made me feel and more. This isn't just about betrayal. It's about standing up for myself and not letting her manipulate or destroy me. After a few days of stewing in my own anger and confusion, I realized I couldn't just sit around waiting for her to slip up again. I had to take control of this mess, figure out what I really wanted, and how I was going to handle her lies and that damn pregnancy. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I wasn't going to let her keep stringing me along, acting like everything was okay. She'd betrayed me, lied to my face, and now she was trying to play the victim. Well, I wasn't about to let her get away with it. I started planning my next move carefully. I kept a close eye on her, recording her if I caught her sneaking around again. I also decided I needed to confront Jake directly. I wasn't just angry at Lisa anymore. Jake had become a symbol of betrayal. I wanted to see if I could get anything useful out of him, maybe even corner him into admitting what he did. I wasn't planning to go easy on either of them. I wanted the truth, raw and unfiltered. One evening I caught her again. This time she was acting even more suspicious. She was texting someone, hiding her phone as soon as I entered the room. I didn't say a word, just started recording her on my phone. When she saw me, her face twisted into that bitchy smirk. "Mike, what are you doing? Leave me alone," she snapped. I just looked at her and said, "I've had enough of your lies, Lisa. I know everything. The affair, the pregnancy, Jake, it's all out in the open now." Her reaction was priceless. She tried to deny it, but I had the evidence. Her face went pale, then angry. She started yelling, calling me paranoid, accusing me of spying on her, trying to turn it around on me. That's when I finally snapped. I told her, "You've been screwing around, lying to my face, and now you're pregnant with his kid. How could you do this to me? How could you be so fucking selfish?" She started crying again, but I didn't buy it anymore. That fake, manipulative crying. I knew she was trying to guilt me into feeling sorry for her, but I wasn't falling for it. I told her she had one chance, tell me the truth, everything, or I was done. That's when she finally cracked. She admitted she'd been sleeping with Jake for months, that she got pregnant on purpose, and that she'd been lying about so much more. Hearing her confess was like a punch in the gut, but at the same time I felt this strange sense of relief. Finally, I knew the truth. I knew she was a liar, a cheater, and a manipulator. I also knew I had to make some decisions. I told her she needed to leave. I couldn't live with her anymore, not after this. I told her I wanted her gone by the end of the week and that I was done trying to save what was left of our marriage. She begged, of course, crying and saying she loved me, that she'd fix everything, but I'd heard enough. Love. She had no idea what love even was. She just wanted to keep her lies and her affair going. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing, replaying everything. I felt a strange mixture of anger and relief, anger at her, relief that I finally knew the truth, and a sense of emptiness. I realized I'd been blinded for so long. I'd trusted her blindly, given her everything, and what did I get in return? Lies, betrayal, a kid with another man. It was a lot to process. I kept thinking about the future, about moving on, about how I'd rebuild my life from this chaos. I'd be lying if I said I was ready to forgive her or forget, but I knew I had to start somewhere. In the end, I learned something important. Trust is fragile. And when it's broken, it's not easy to fix. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I've been through a lot, and this betrayal hurt worse than anything. But I refuse to let her or Jake ruin me. I'm taking control of my life now, even if it hurts. I'm done playing the victim. It's time to move on, to rebuild myself from this wreckage. And honestly, I don't know if I'll ever fully get past this, but I do know one thing. I won't be the guy who gets cheated on and just takes it. Not anymore. After I made the decision for her to leave, everything started to change rapidly. She packed her things in a hurry, still trying to play the victim, crying, begging, acting like I was the one overreacting. But I didn't care anymore. Her tears were just a show. I had enough proof, enough of her lies, and enough of her bullshit. I told her she had until the end of the week, and then I wanted her out. I wanted her to understand that she'd burned her bridges with me. No more excuses, no more lies. The days that followed were a whirlwind. I spent most of my time cleaning up the house, trying to disconnect from the chaos she left behind. Every corner, every room reminded me of the betrayal. Her stuff was gone, but her presence still lingered in my mind. I couldn't sleep. I would lie awake at night, replaying everything. The moments I caught her sneaking around, the conversations, her fake tears, her attempts to manipulate me. It all felt like a bad nightmare I couldn't wake up from. And yet I knew I had to keep moving forward. I couldn't let her or Jake win this. Meanwhile, I started reaching out to people, friends, family, trying to get advice, trying to process what I'd been through. Most of them were sympathetic, but some were angry at her, calling her a bitch and saying she got what she deserved. Honestly, I was surprised how many people saw her for what she really was. She painted herself as a victim, pregnant, stressed, misunderstood. But I saw her for what she truly was, a liar, a cheater, a manipulator. The kid. Yeah, I couldn't help but think about that. I didn't want to be a father to her kid, especially not after everything she did. I knew I had to think about what I was going to do about that, but right now, I was just focused on getting her out of my life. One of the toughest parts, facing the fact that I'd lost someone I loved, someone I'd trusted for years. But I also knew I'd been a fool. I kept blaming myself for not seeing the signs earlier, for not noticing how she'd been acting distant and secretive. But I also realized that trust isn't just about believing the best in someone, it's about knowing they're honest and loyal. And she broke that. She shattered it into pieces with her lies and her affairs. There's no coming back from that, at least not for me. The emotional roller coaster was brutal. Some days I'd feel numb, like I couldn't feel anything anymore. Other days I'd get angry, at her, at Jake, at myself for trusting them so blindly. I'd cry sometimes, not just from pain, but from the betrayal. I kept asking myself if I'd ever find someone who truly loved me, who wouldn't lie and cheat. It was a mess of feelings I couldn't really untangle, but I knew I had to. Try. I started focusing on myself, my work, my friends, anything to distract from the pain. And then I started thinking about revenge again. Not some childish scheme, but a way to make her realize how badly she screwed up her life. I wanted her to see that she'd lost someone who truly cared for her, and that her actions had consequences. I'd already recorded her lying, I had evidence of her affair, and I was gathering more. I even considered confronting Jake one last time, maybe expose him to his own circle, make him feel the embarrassment he deserved. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't going to just roll over and forget. No, she was going to pay somehow. I'd make sure of it. In the end, I learned a lot about myself in this nightmare. I learned that I am capable of feeling pain that cuts so deep it's almost physical. But I also learned that I'm capable of standing up, of fighting for what's right, even if it's just protecting myself from further damage. I don't regret finding out the truth, no matter how painful it was, because now I know who she really is, and I know I deserve better. I may be broken right now, but I'm not defeated. I'll rebuild somehow, and I'll come out of this stronger than I was before. That's what I keep telling myself anyway. Now, as I sit here reflecting on everything, I realize how much this whole ordeal has changed me. I won't pretend it's easy. Some nights, the pain still hits hard, and I wonder how I ever let her manipulate me for so long. But what's clearer than ever is that I refuse to be a victim anymore. I've learned that trust, once broken, is incredibly hard to repair, and sometimes it's better to walk away than to keep trying to fix what's beyond repair. She's gone now, and I've had to accept that I'll never get the answers I want from her or the closure I thought I needed. Instead, I've found a strange sense of liberation, finally seeing her for who she truly is. The part that hurts the most isn't even her cheating or her lying about the pregnancy. It's that I allowed myself to stay blind for so long, to ignore the signs, to convince myself that she was the woman I thought I knew, but the truth is she was never that person. She was someone else entirely, someone selfish, manipulative, and willing to destroy her marriage for her own selfish needs. I've come to realize that sometimes the biggest act of love you can give yourself is walking away from the chaos, the lies, and the betrayal, even if it hurts like hell. That's what I did. I chose to reclaim my dignity, my peace, and my future. I've started focusing on myself again, reconnecting with friends, fixing what I can of my life, and slowly building a new path. I won't lie, there's still a scar there, a wound that might never fully heal. But I also know that I'm stronger now because I faced my worst fears head-on and refused to let her define me. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to know, it's this. Don't ever ignore the signs. Don't let someone's lies slide, thinking it's easier to pretend everything's fine. Because in the end, the truth always comes out. And when it does, you have a choice. Either let it destroy you or use it as a catalyst to rebuild yourself stronger. I'm choosing the latter. I can't change what happened, and I'll never forget it, but I will move forward. I'll find happiness again, and I'll make sure she never gets to hurt me like this again. That's my story. It's raw, it's painful, but it's real. And I hope anyone out there going through something similar finds the strength to face the truth, even if it's ugly, and to do what's right for themselves. Because at the end of the day, no one else is going to look out for you the way you can look out for yourself. Trust is fragile, but so is your heart. Protect it, learn from it, and never let anyone take away your dignity.